Before the video starts, please make sure to drop a like, a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for some more epic zombies content. Now let's get into this. In the 1930s Prohibition America, mob boss Salvador De Luca built a large empire from gambling, prostitution, and the distribution of alcohol. However, he was eventually arrested by the police, along with fellow mobsters Billy Handsome, Michael Finn O'Leary, and Albert the Weasel Arlington. Imprisoned on Alcatraz Island, they were to serve hefty sentences for their crimes. Arlington, however, devised a plan to escape the island on a makeshift aircraft of his own design. He somehow convinced Sal, Billy, and Finn to participate in the escape plan. But soon enough, the joint effort between them descended into quarrels and infighting, and, after numerous complications, the three mobsters became hostile towards Arlington. The plan was quickly abandoned, and the plane was never constructed, much to the frustration of the mobsters. Still angry at Arlington for the failure of the plan, Sal, Billy, and Finn constructed makeshift weapons and lured Arlington onto the roof of the prison, where they attacked him and left him to bleed to death on the night of December 31st, 1933. For the murder of Arlington, the three were sentenced to death by electric chair. Their execution came on the morning of January 19th, 1934. However, after their death sentence, the group were sent back in time to the night of December 31st, 1933, in an alternate, satanic iteration of Alcatraz prison, inhabited entirely by zombies and a guard by the name of Brutus. With no memory of Arlington's murder or the failure of the escape plan, they set out to build Arlington's plane and make an attempt at freedom. However, the escape fails after they crash on the Golden Gate Bridge. Eventually, the four mobsters are killed by zombies, reappearing in the prison with no memory of their previous endeavor, and soon attempt to build the plane again. This results in the mobsters being stuck in an endless loop, with the notion of escape an impossibility. With no escape, the mobsters try something else. They learn that, in reality, they are all dead, and their escape plan never came to be. Remembering everything, the mobsters once again set out to kill Arlington. If Sal, Billy, and Finn kill Arlington, the cycle continues, with the mobsters dying and returning to Alcatraz, and only Weasel having any memory of what happened before. If Arlington successfully defeats Sal, Billy, and Finn, the cycle is broken, leaving Arlington free to escape the bridge as the only mobster left. In the year 1939, the world was threatened by a Second World War, after Germany's Chancellor and Supreme Dictator Adolf Hitler rose to power. Simultaneously, Dr. Ludwig Maxis formed Group 935 as an international German-led research team and emerged as its head scientist. Maxis sought to use a mysterious new element, which he had named Element 115, to improve the human condition by developing advanced technologies, and enlisted Dr. Edward Richtofen as his senior assistant. However, the group's goal immediately detoured due to a lack of funding, and Maxis regretfully turned to making a contract with the Nazi Wunderwaffe program to use 115 as a power source for deadly new weaponry to help the Axis powers win the war. Maxis hoped that after the war, the generous funds and Germany's ultimate victory would put Group 935 in a much better position to help the world. Using a large supply of element 115 found in meteors, Maxis began a series of tests experimenting with 115 being used to power devices capable of teleportation, called MDTs, at the Dürres facility in Lower Silesia. While the majority of the tests failed, Richtofen and another 935 scientist, Dr. Schuster, conducted a successful test on their own by teleporting a walnut using a microgram of element 115. Though Edward assumed it was a sign of progress, Maxis criticized the scientists for failing to work on their assigned experiments, which led Richtofen into thinking that Maxis planned to betray the scientists and claim their work as his own. Despite Maxis's displeasure, Richtofen and Schuster continued their research with the MDT device, and after a month of tests, Richtofen agreed to be teleported himself. But rather than appearing at the test site's mainframe, he arrived within a catacomb on the moon, where a large, triangular device known as the MPD was located. After touching the device, Richtofen began hearing a series of voices in his head, unknowingly gaining schizophrenia from the pyramid, before teleporting away from the strange device. Arriving in an exotic shrine in the Himalayan jungles known as Shangri-La, Richtofen remained there for 3 weeks and learned of a mysterious energy force known as the Vril. Richtofen soon returned to the Der Riese facility with full knowledge of the MPD and the Vril, and with Schuster and other Group 935 scientists, spent 2 years at Eagle's Nest, transferring equipment and building a top-secret moon base, Griffin Station, to study the device, which he now knew to be a dimensional gateway to the ether. Placing Schuster and his superior, Dr. Groff, in charge of the facility, Richtofen continued his charade as Maxis' senior assistant, whom he planned to eventually kill to assume control, then enter the ether using the MPD to take control of its energy. As Groff and Schuster toiled with the device, Maxis and Richtofen began a project to create wonder weapons for the Nazi Party. Maxis used a blueprint design created by the Japanese research group Division 9 to create the ray gun, while Richtofen used the element to create the Wunderwaffe DG-2, a weapon so deadly even Maxis himself felt uneasy about its mass production. Nonetheless, he promised Richtofen it would be produced, but his growing attraction with his secretary Sophia prevented him from doing so, infuriating Richtofen. While other weapons were produced from several Group 935 facilities, such as the quantum entanglement device made by Richtofen and the second-generation ray gun created by Dr. Porter, Maxis focused his attention on the matter transference devices, hoping to manufacture them to the Wehrmacht, granting German forces easy travel in the war. The initial tests failed, with test subjects either being killed or exposed to element 115, resulting in their deceased cells being reanimated and becoming unresponsive zombies. However, the first successful test was conducted after a dog had been sent through the device and failed to return to the mainframe. While Maxis believed the MDT experiments to be failures, the Reichstag saw the creation of the zombies as another advantage in the war, forcing Maxis to create a program intended to control them. During the unsuccessful attempts to control the zombies, Richtofen traveled to a Siberian Group 935 outpost to experiment with 115 on living test subjects, hoping to procure a serum capable of rendering the human mind responsive to commands from another. Using POWs, Richtofen used Red Army Sergeant Nikolai Belinsky, Imperial Army Captain Takio Masaki, and a Mexican soldier Pablo Marinas as subjects in his tests. Through the process, Belinsky and Masaki's memories were erased, and Marinas was killed, forcing Richtofen to request a replacement test subject. After an American OSS spy, Peter McCain, who was inserted into Group 935 to report all ongoing experiments to his handlers at a Nevada base, was compromised at the 935 facility in the Wittenau Sanatorium in Pankow, Berlin. A Marine recon team was sent to evacuate him. The team, consisting of Corporal Tank Dempsey, John Banana Smokey, and a fourth Marine whose name is unknown, found the site infested with the undead. Their extraction plan quickly failed, leaving Dempsey the only survivor and Richtofen's newest test subject. Peter is then able to escape and takes experimental weaponry version 3. He is flying in a plane looking over Division 9's Rising Sun facility and sees a distortion similar to a localized aurora borealis. He then jumps into the distortion. Meanwhile, another recon team was sent to an airfield in an attempt to rescue the site from the zombies there. Richtofen became suspicious of other OSS operatives in the organization, with Dr. Harvey Yena being one of his suspects. Yena was also present at the Siberian site, developing the scavenger sniper rifle. Nonetheless, Richtofen continued his work with 115, which yielded interesting results with each test subject. Dempsey acquired severe anger management issues, Belinsky became functionless without some form of alcoholic substance, and Masaki's mind was broken, with him only speaking Japanese proverbs. As Richtofen's research continued, Dr. Groff and Dr. Schuster developed the wave gun and continued research with the MPD. When Richtofen returned to Der Riese, World War II was at an end, resulting in an Allied victory, and the collapse of the Third Reich. With 935 no longer funded and a test site overrun, the future looked grim, though Maxis pressed on to improve the human condition, conducting a sixth test with the MDT, hoping to mass produce it for public use. Maxis and Richthofen used Fluffy, a German shepherd which Maxis gave as a present to his daughter Samantha. To their astonishment, she was successfully teleported from teleporter ZA, spawning an orb of light in her place. As this occurred, Samantha arrived at the lab, questioning her father on Fluffy's disappearance. The dog quickly returned through the lightning, with 115 reanimating her deceased cells and turning her into a being known as a hellhound. As Maxis and his daughter attempted to approach the monster, Richthofen proceeded with his plan by locking them in the teleporter with the former dog, activating its function in an attempt to murder the two. Unbeknownst to Richthofen, Samantha and Ludwig both entered the MDT and were teleported to separate locations. Samantha arrived at Griffin Station, where the MPD awaited open and ready for a human conduit. Terrified from a lack of air, Samantha accidentally ran into the device itself, entering the ether and gaining control of its energy. Dr. Groff immediately contacted Richthofen and warned him of both father and daughter having survived, and received commands to locate Maxis and bring him to the station to finish him off. Using the MPD's ability to teleport matter, Schuster and Groff teleported Maxis to the base, where they allowed him to speak with Samantha. After promising he loved her, Maxis asked his daughter to use the ether's powerful energy to destroy Group 935 and anyone daring to continue their dangerous work, which she promised to fulfill. He then proceeded to commit suicide, causing his soul to become conjoined with the computer systems of Griffin Station, while Samantha commanded the zombie hordes located at numerous 935 outposts to slaughter anyone involved with the organization. Richthofen hastily escaped Der Riese, now overrun with zombies, with his 3 test subjects. Realizing that Samantha was in control of the ether, he devised an alternate plan to gain ultimate power. Use a vril generating device and sufficient supply of 115 to bend life force itself, allowing him to switch his soul with Samantha and enter the ether as an all-powerful being. After arriving at the Rising Sun facility to locate a supply of the element, Richthofen discovered the site to be populated by zombies, forcing him and his allies to fend off the hordes. Due to a possibility of being overwhelmed, the 4 abandoned the site and returned to Der Riese, where Richthofen hoped to use an MDT prototype to arrive at Griffin Station in the same fashion as Samantha, to possibly enter the ether using a different method. After the MDT was shot with the Wunderwaffe DG-2 charge, it overloaded and ripped through space and time, sending the group into the future to an abandoned theater in Germany. After disappearing from Der Riese, a Russian and American standoff took place, as both forces wanted to salvage the work of Group 935 for the benefit of their own countries, followed by a massacre of the zombie population there. Sometime prior to the character's arrival at the Soviet Cosmodrome, a Russian scientist named Yuri Zavoysky was transferred from Project Mercury to work on sending monkeys into space, much to his dismay. His transfer was caused by his superior, Gersh, who held a grudge against him after the relieving of his duty from Project Mercury. As Gersh is working on Project Mercury, his staff begin to work on Project Thunder. Beginning his new work, Yuri soon notices a teddy bear and Matryoshka dolls at random places throughout the facility, causing him to wonder how a child could be let into the station. The child, Samantha, then slowly drives Yuri insane, and in his state of insanity, finishes the Gersh device. Yuri has Gersh activated, allowing zombies to enter the station and trapping Gersh inside the device. Shortly after, Yuri presumably dies. After the events of Kino der Toten, the main characters somehow reach the abandoned Soviet Cosmodrome. The characters then hear Gersh, who tells them that the mechanism must be repaired, referring to the Casimir mechanism, which must be fixed by completing a series of different tasks. After all the steps are completed and the mechanism is finally repaired, Gersh is freed, leaving Samantha free to be ridden of in the ether. At the same time, John F. Kennedy, Robert McNamara, Fidel Castro, and Richard Nixon are negotiating when zombies break into the Pentagon. They are the only 4 still alive in the building, and while upon reaching the final level, discover a section of the Pentagon housing numerous devices and artifacts the Americans had salvaged from Der Riese. As they continue fighting at the Cosmodrome, Dempsey and Takio slowly begin to regain their memory. Takio is the first to remember, and remarks to himself that someday when the group is finished fighting zombies, Richtofen will get what he deserves. Dempsey, on the other hand, is slowly making progress, as he remembers that he'd seen Richtofen before being captured. Takio notes his shifting memories and believes Dempsey is finally remembering what Richtofen did to him. In modern-day 2011, George A. Romero stumbled upon Group 935's research while making a World War II film. He and the cast took a ship out to the now-abandoned lab in Siberia. After he and the movie's crew were zombified by the remains of the ship's crew, only 4 main actors of the crew, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, and Michael Rooker, remained alive. After the Casimir mechanism was completed in Ascension, it overloaded the teleporter and sent the original characters to the Group 935 facility in Siberia, where they were trapped behind a locked door. Richtofen then asked the celebrities to help him obtain the Golden Rod, which they did. Richtofen thanked the group by giving them the Wunderwaffe DG2 to help them survive against the onslaught. It is unknown what became of the celebrities after helping the group escape to Shangri-La, though sometime later, Romero was interviewed, where he recounted his story of how he found the research and how he came to making the film. Shangri-La, a temple that was once a mining facility for Element 115, however, does not live up to its name, as its inhabitants have all been zombified before the group's arrival. Richtofen now states that this was the last step to controlling the world before he is teleported there. Prior to the group's arrival at Shangri-La, 2 explorers, Brock and Gary, went on an expedition to prove their theories on Agartha. Brock later figures out that the temple wasn't built by an ancient civilization, but by people in the modern era interpreting it. After investigating the temple, the pair accidentally activated the temple's time travel and died in the resulting zombie attack. The group travels back in time and helps the pair survive. When the group finally creates the focusing stone and places it on an altar with Richtofen's name, the 2 explorers are sent back to the moment they discovered the temple, indicating that they're stuck in a never-ending loop. Now in possession of both the Golden Rod and the Focusing Stone, Richtofen believes he can now control the zombies. The group then travels to Area 51 so they can get to the moon via a teleporter to Griffin Station. When the group reaches Area 51, it is already overrun. Due to the element 115 on the moon, astronauts and scientists sent there have been zombified before the group's arrival. Meanwhile, a group of CDC radiation scientists and CIA agents investigate the ruins of a former nuclear test site in Nevada when the undead begin to attack. Richtofen then has the group complete the MPD. When the device is completed, it opens up to reveal Samantha Maxis, suspended in the air. As it turns out, the device acts like a prison and keeps her cryogenically frozen so she can be used to control the zombies. Richtofen goes to a terminal to power up the Golden Rod and the Focusing Stone, which he fuses together. However, he encounters Dr. Maxis inside the terminal, who tries to stop him. Richtofen switches souls with Samantha to gain control of the zombies. Richtofen finally thinks everything has gone his way, until Takio, Dempsey, and Nikolai decide to stop him. Dr. Maxis, sensing Richtofen's betrayal, prepared a backup plan in case Richtofen got this far. The group then launches 3 missiles located on the moon, one of which impacts the nuclear testing site, destroying the Earth's ozone layer in hopes that it will sever the link between to the ether, thereby greatly lessening the damage Richtofen could cause. Unfortunately, the calculations were made in haste, resulting in a catastrophic destruction. The missile launch leaves the Earth a post-apocalyptic crumbling wasteland, littered with undead hordes as civilization begins to collapse. As survivors begin to band together to form small human communities and shelters to protect themselves from the now global undead threat, Maxis realizes the failure of his original plans due to hasty calculations and begins contacting survivors to help them with his Plan B, to activate global polarization devices and open a gateway to the ether, where he would overpower Richtofen and use its energy to heal the Earth. Unbeknownst to his followers, Maxis secretly planned to commandeer the ether's energy for his own use to open the gateway to Agartha and reunite with Samantha, which would ultimately destroy the Earth and its people. Richtofen, unsatisfied with his limited power to the undead, planned to activate these polarization devices as well, which would grant him further manipulation of both zombies and humans and mend the Rift, a direct gateway to Agartha that would eternally damn the soul of Samantha Maxis. Limited to communicate With only those capable of hearing the voices of the ether, Richtofen began his own plight and quest for unlimited power. Meanwhile, Marlton Johnson emerges as the sole survivor of the events in the nuclear test site and meets Abigail Misty Briarton in an abandoned town where they find two more survivors, Russman and Samuel J. Stuhlinger, who have commandeered a robotic bus they have used for transport. There, the four survivors are contacted by Maxis, who reveals the town is a location of the polarization device required for his plans. At the same time, Richtofen contacts Samuel, who has previously eaten zombie flesh, resulting in him being able to hear Richtofen, instructing him to foil Maxis' plans by activating the tower in his favor, beginning the race for the power between the Germans. The group is teleported by Richtofen to a skyscraper in the crumbled city of Shanghai, China. Maxis regains contact, hoping to gain control of the second tower located there, while Richtofen blackmailed Samuel into helping him acquire the device's power as well, threatening to reveal to his allies his secrets. Every time the group fails to carry out the objective and is killed by the zombie horde, Richtofen would use his power to bring them back, with no memories of having been killed before. Once the second polarization device had been activated by either of the Germans, the group manages to escape the building they were trapped in. Eventually, the group makes it out of the crumbling city of Shanghai and begins a journey through the remains of Europe and Africa to reach the Rift. Hoping to find answers about the unseen forces commandeering them, in southern Angola, the group finds a western town buried underground near the Rift. Maxis once again contacts his allies, imploring them to activate the last tower in his favor. Meanwhile, Samuel was tasked for the same objective by Richtofen, as it was also the last tower he needed to mend the rift and gain his unlimited power. If the player decides to follow Maxis' Easter eggs in all three maps and polarize the towers in his favor, a portal to the ether will open and allow Maxis to become the controller of the zombies and the dimension's energies. He will then proceed with his plans to open Agartha, revealing himself to be just as evil as Richtofen and announcing that in the process he will destroy the Earth and its surviving inhabitants, and reunite himself with his daughter Samantha after returning Richtofen to the physical world spawned as a blue-eyed zombie. If the player decides to follow Richtofen's Easter eggs in all three maps and polarize the towers in his favor, the rift will be mended, eternally damning Samantha to Agartha and allowing Richtofen to retrieve full manipulation of the ether's energies. With the Earth as his personal playground and Maxis to cease his very existence, Richtofen is now able to leave the ether at will and uses the body of Samuel Stuhlinger as his physical host. Unknown to both Germans, Samantha had actually traveled to an alternate timeline in 1918. In this timeline, in the midst of World War I, the German research organization, known as Group 935, are tasked with creating powerful new weaponry to ensure victory for the Central Powers. During September of 1917, Dr. Ludwig Maxis and his partner Dr. Edward Richtofen lead an archaeological excavation into the trenches of northern France after Maxis promises Group 935's leader that this is the location of an unknown and enigmatic new element. The excavation not only discovers this new element, but also uncovers an ancient and mysterious ruin beneath the battlefield. Dr. Maxis classifies the new element as number 115 on the periodic table of elements. The group plans to use element 115 as a power source for new weaponry in the Wonder Weapon program. At the excavation site, Group 935 installs a series of conversion generators that utilize element 115 to create localized energy fields. To their surprise, the energy fields act like portals and begin to materialize advanced machinery of indeterminate origin, leading Maxis to surmise that the conversion of element 115 is somehow capable of creating a crease or tear in space and time. As the excavation continues, Group 935 discover more wonders, such as an ancient box capable of delivering weapons from various time periods, further confirming Maxis' suspicion that element 115 has time-altering properties. Dr. Richtofen takes part in the creation of at least 4 giant mechanical humanoids whose creation is only possible due to the use of element 115 as a power source. Group 935 plans to deliver these to the German army for use in battle. It is at this time Richtofen notices Maxis starts to show signs of paranoia and mental psychosis. The symptoms worsen as Maxis begins to hear the voice of Samantha, who claims not only to be his daughter, but also that she is trapped in the realm known as Agartha and needs his help to escape. Due to Samantha's constant interference with their work, Richtofen fears for his friend Max's safety and grows to despise Samantha. Meanwhile, the excavation in northern France unearths a sealed main chamber within the ancient ruins. All attempts to open this chamber are unsuccessful until, purely by chance, one of the workers sets up a gramophone for entertainment. When the gramophone begins to play music, the chamber seal opens, revealing cryptic writing on the walls. Maxis studies the writing and learns of an ancient race and their ability to create powerful devices such as an amplification rod and elemental stones. According to the writing, the amplification rod is capable of harnessing energy from the elemental stones. The excavation group has found neither the rod nor the stones, so Maxis instructs Richtofen to create 4 replica rods or elemental staffs while continuing to search for the original devices. When presenting the idea, Richtofen began to question Maxis' actions, believing the amplification rod to be a myth. Convinced of his insanity, he planned to report his mental instability to Group 935's leaders, while Samantha began to communicate more frequently with Maxis. Now attempting to convince him of her being his future daughter, one night, as a team of soldiers were installing more generators, they reported seeing strange and ancient figures emerging from the mound and finding many of the men dead or missing by morning. As more figures emerged, now revealed to be corpses reanimated by Element 115's powers, the test site slowly became infected by the creatures, with Maxis himself slowly turning. The reports of the creatures provoked the United States to send Tank Dempsey to the test site to investigate the group's work and acquire Dr. Richtofen as an HVT. Meanwhile, Civil War-torn Russia did the same, believing the Germans had been gearing up to unleash a dangerous new weapon and sent Nikolai Belinsky to undertake the mission. The Emperor, wishing to seize the German weaponry for Japan, sends Takeo Masaki. As the 3 soldiers made their way to the site, Richtofen attempted to preserve Maxis' mind and prevent it from succumbing to the disease, and removed his brain. Eventually, the 4 heroes meet and agree to put aside their country's allegiances to band together and survive the zombie attack and Group 935's mechanical robots, while being contacted by Samantha in the midst of battle, begging to be released from Agartha. While Tank, Nikolai, and Takeo agreed to help, Richtofen focused on creating a makeshift quad-rotor drone using Maxis' brain, allowing him to live temporarily until a human body could be provided. The 4 are able to open a portal to Agartha beneath the ruins, allowing Maxis to meet his future daughter and Samantha to be freed from controlling the zombies. The zombie outbreak was contained. Another alternate universe is shown, where Samantha Maxis and a boy named Eddie, under the care of Samantha's father, Dr. Ludwig Maxis, is casually playing a game of zombies, as if fictionalizing all of the past events that occurred, making it seem like it was all just one big game. Samantha is seen narrating the ending of the origin story, referencing the end of all her and the world's problems, making it seem like the zombie storyline was nothing more but a fictionalized story, a story created to scare children. Eddie argues that the zombie's eyes should be blue, and says that Samantha doesn't know how to play right. All of a sudden, sirens are heard in the background. Dr. Maxis tells them to lock the windows and go into the basement. Samantha tells Eddie that he can make the rules next time. Eddie hesitantly says, "I wish the heroes in our story were real, Sam." Then Samantha replies, "Don't worry, my father has a plan." Over the course of the next 2 years in the Origins timeline, Richtofen studied the concept of alternate timelines and learned about the force of the ancient evil, who controls the undead, and how Element 115 connects all dimensions together. He takes a particular interest in the universe where the children, Samantha and Eddie, live in, and seeks to protect them. Richtofen discovers something called the Cranorium, granting him knowledge on an artifact called the Summoning Key, which resides in yet another dimension. The alternate timeline where the Summoning Key exists is in the 1940s, in the fictional city of Morgue City. Simultaneously, 4 individuals who have come to reside in the dimension, Nero Blackstone, Jessica Rose, Jackie Vincent, and Floyd Campbell, have defended the key from keepers, whilst following the Shadow Man. Richtofen enters right after the 4 defeat a giant apothecant tentacled monster. He rushes in, takes the key which the keepers were giving the 4, thanks the four for their efforts, and rushes off. Now in possession of the artifact, Richthofen travels to an alternate timeline to kill one of World War II's Richthofen's multiple versions. In this timeline, only moments after the original Richthofen trapped Maxis and Samantha inside a teleporter with Fluffy, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takio from the Origins timeline attempt to stop Richthofen and join him in this timeline. The three confront the World War II Richthofen, telling him that there is a chain of events that must be carried out and prompt him to awaken this timeline's versions of themselves. As the zombie horde approaches them from the outside, the World War II Richthofen ignores the three's warnings and turns on the teleporter, only to find the Origins timeline's Richthofen inside it. The young Richthofen, who had just acquired the summoning key from Morgue City, then shoots the original Richthofen in the head, killing him instantly. While the group expresses disappointment in Richthofen for tampering with history, he defends his action, believing that what he does will be for a better tomorrow. The four characters band together within the Der Riese facility in order to survive the undead horde to progress through their mission. They light up a beacon within the facility, enabling the Origins timeline's Maxis to know where and when they are. Over the course of the mission, the Origins characters' personality begin to merge with those of their original counterparts. Dempsey becomes more aggressive as well as loudmouthed. Nikolai becomes slightly less intelligent and is more obsessed with drinking. Takio constantly speaks using Japanese proverbs, and Richthofen shows signs of schizophrenia. Using a giant robot at Der Riese, the four characters then pursue a Group 935 truck, carrying a cryostasis pod containing the original Dempsey. The robot, however, is shot down by a rocket, forcing the four to continue on foot. They reach a gondola station which takes them up to Griffin Castle, also known as Eagle's Nest, where massive deposits of element 115 have been recently discovered. However, the four were too late to stop the original Dempsey from being sent towards Griffin Station on a rocket. As they carry on with their mission, Richthofen then poses as his original self in an attempt to fool Dr. Groff, who becomes suspicious of Richthofen's abnormal behavior. Eventually, the group redirects the rocket containing original Dempsey's pod to hit the castle courtyard. In retaliation, Groff then activates a failsafe, preventing them from tampering with the pod. Richthofen then instructs them to activate the MPD by temporarily displacing it from Griffin Station to the castle. After battling a keeper corrupted by Group 935, the four unleash a barrage of missiles toward the moon, destroying it, along with all Group 935 members within Griffin Station. As they approach the original Dempsey's pod, Richthofen reveals his plan to eliminate their original counterparts and absorb their souls into the summoning key. Dempsey, though initially resentful of the idea, agrees to the plan and takes it upon himself to disable the pod's life support system, ending the life of the original Dempsey. With the original Dempsey dead, Richthofen uses the summoning key to capture and preserve the soul of the original Dempsey. With that done, his goal at Griffin Castle is completed. After the mission at Griffin Castle, the four somehow teleport to another universe, arriving on board a Japanese ship in the Pacific Ocean, eventually being taken hostage once the crew of Division 9 soldiers discover the stowaways. A Japanese officer interrogates the four as he holds the summoning key in his hand. Suddenly, a massive wave strikes the ship, sending everyone off their balance. A brief fight then ensues on the ship as the officer drops the summoning key, resulting in his brutal murder at the hands of Takio. As the summoning key rolls toward the side of the ship, Takio catches it at the last second. Much to the other relief, however, a fire on board the ship forces the four to jump overboard as the ship explodes. The four eventually are forced to swim to a nearby island, seen in the distance as the ship behind them sinks to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The island, which also houses a Division 9 facility, had been exposed to various Element 115 experiments, resulting in a mutated animal and plant life of various kinds. As they dive deeper into the facility, they discover a giant thrasher, locked within a cell. After a long ensuing battle with the undead horde, the group destroys the thrasher, which is revealing to be a mutated form of this universe's Takio. Conversing with his older self, the young Takio is then shocked by the revelation that it was the Emperor who sent him here to be tortured and experimented on. He then resolves himself and offers the World War II Takio a chance for redemption. The World War II Takio then commits seppuku, with the young Takio acting as his Kaishakunin. Having absorbed his soul into the summoning key, Richtofen then teleports the group somewhere else to accomplish a task that will set a chain of events into motion before returning back to the island. Following the demise of the World War II Takio at the Division 9 facility, the four travel to a war-torn Stalingrad in another alternate universe. During a massive battle between several Group 935 controlled dragons and Russian giant robots in search for this universe's Nikolai Belinsky. Eventually, the crew are teleported through a portal in the sky to Russia, free-falling until Dempsey notices a soldier, Peter McCain, has a parachute and is holding with him the GKZ-45 Mark III. Dempsey pulls the reserve on the chute and slows the Origins crew's descent. However, Nikolai notices a massive dragon that flies toward a lone mech, and upon inspecting the dragon's target, finds the mech to be piloted by none other than the original timeline Nikolai Belinsky. Upon noticing the crew, the original Nikolai attempts to kill them, but is thrown into a building by the dragon before he can fire any munitions. Later, when encountering the Origins characters, questions who they are and if they can help him. Eventually, the Origins crew reach Sophia, who is somehow turned into an AI. She asks them to perform a number of tasks before a master password can be typed in, prompting the young four to complete the Ascension Protocol. As they continue to follow Sophia's instructions, they find Gurch, who recognizes them, yet knows that they are not the exact same versions who freed him. The Origins characters then trick Gurch into entering the systems of Sophia to extract information from him. Later, a voice contacts the four stating that he's seen their misdeeds. As the Origins crew continue to fight, the mysterious voice asks them to fix the universe, as they are partially responsible for its fracture. Soon enough, the Origins versions of the crew reach the original timeline Nikolai, who makes a temporary truce with them to kill the dragon. However, upon the Alpha Dragon's death, and the four asking Nikolai to surrender, he turns on them and attempts to kill them. Nevertheless, the Origins crew defeat the original timeline Nikolai, who is then approached by his Origins version, asking if he will kill him now, in a drunken stupor. The Origins timeline Nikolai apologizes, stating he wishes there was another way, and remarks he suffers the same pain as his older counterpart. Continuing, he explains further that obsession with alcohol was simply to hide agonizing memories. His first wife was killed in an air raid, revealing that Nikolai had always lied about his uncaring attitude towards women, and what drove him to have multiple wives. In a fit of rage, the original Nikolai fires upon his younger self with a pistol. However, the shot hits him on his armored shoulder, causing no damage. In retaliation, the Origins Nikolai responds by killing his original self with his shotgun, allowing Richtofen to then collect his soul. With all four souls collected, Richtofen sends the original Nikolai, Takio, and Dempsey towards the sky with a beacon from the summoning key, claiming that the crew will see Maxis soon. Later, the unknown voice from before contacts Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takio, stating that Richtofen can't hear him, and congratulates them on completing their campaign. He then clarifies that they will arrive soon at the house, his domain. The disembodied voice also states he'd spent years looking for just the right versions of them to close off the dimensions, suggesting that the versions of the characters collected were a plausible reason for the universe's disorder, and the fates of the other incarnations of other realms, besides his domain, had all been erased at this point. Finally, revealing his name as Dr. Monty, the voice finally expresses his distrust of Richtofen, reasoning he had been in the house for ages, and that the others shouldn't trust him. We find out that when Richtofen sends the 1.0 souls to Maxis, they got their souls in the house, developing a child version of themselves to be safe in the house. Maxis' body was able to be taken over by the Shadow Man in the house, because when the Maxis drone was sent to the house in Origins, he only gets a brain, not a soul. Therefore, the Shadow Man is able to contact him and use Maxis to get out of the summoning key. Finally, Richtofen and the others teleport to the universe where the children exist, revealed to be a perfect world. The children, Samantha, Eddie, and child versions of Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai, residing in the house as a result of Richtofen collecting the souls, play with their toys as an air siren sounds. Meanwhile, in the basement, Richtofen, Takio, Nikolai, and Dempsey exit the teleporter to meet Maxis, who then proceeds to destroy the teleporter with the help of Richtofen. Sometime later, Maxis becomes overwhelmed by a voice begging for help, influencing him to reach out for the summoning key, which ultimately releases the Shadow Man into the dimension, who in turn captures Maxis within the summoning key. The Shadow Man then begins the process of corrupting the dimension by allowing the Apothecans into it, wreaking havoc across the dimension. Nonetheless, the 4 Origins characters manage to defeat the Shadow Man by shooting him into the mouth of an Apothecan statue, which crushes the Shadow Man, killing him. Finally, Sophia and Maxis sacrifice themselves to preserve the area. Afterwards, the Origins characters are sent back, becoming Primus, where they are regarded as conquering heroes and enter into a time loop.